Are you feeling overwhelmed yet? There's so much information, and if you're feeling flooded or you're like, you can't catch up, that's my job. That's why I get to work here at the Marriott Library at the University of Utah every day, because this is hard. I work with faculty all the time, so don't have that imposter syndrome when you're reaching out to me or any of the other librarians. We're here to help you get through all of this, because this is like there's millions and millions and millions of different things, and how do we know what's right and what's wrong is a negotiated space that I can help with. So we've looked a lot at the issue and the problem, and we've looked at populations a little bit. We've looked at interventions a little bit. We've looked at like issues in like drug court, like racism or ineffectiveness of it. But now we're going to move over to the intended audience. Any message that you have, you cater for the effectiveness of like the values of who you're talking to. At the very basics, it's like use the same language. So there's an injury lawyer on the freeway, I-15, that has their billboards up and down the freeway, and they started putting them in Spanish. Why? Because they're trying to reach people who speak Spanish. So some of them are very easy. So educational attainment, you might not use like really high-level scientific words. Employment status, ancestry, there's all sorts of different things. What we're going to look at is in identity, values, community, and culture. And we're not going to look at anything on this side, on this one. We're just going to look at the values of our intended audience. So another database, my favorite database, is Sociological Abstracts. Oh, here's another cool trick. You can go by discipline and go to sociology, and you'll find my favorite database, Sociological Abstracts. It remembered my search. Thanks, no thanks. So let's go to advanced search. So if you have a population, if you're doing demographics and you're like taking census, you can't go around and say, you look like you're from this country, you look like you're from this country, you look like you have a college degree, you look like you have a PhD. It only works off of questions that are carefully written to get as many unbiased answers as you can, and then they use statistics to figure out how many of those are likely to be valid. So it can be cosplay, can be an identity. An age group, so like high school, can be an identity. It can also be ancestry, language, and things that I talked about. But let's back out a little bit. And I'm going to do like a specific ancestry. So here's Dale's next tip. If I just look up the ones that I know, like Latinx, am I going to miss like Hispanic, Latin, Latino, Latina? Yes, I am. How do we find out more synonyms for a particular identity? Well, again, you can go to your favorite AI and say, what are synonyms for whatever identity? And when we talk about identity, it's a self-made, self-declared identity. So it's how the person feels about themselves. So we have all these synonyms: Latino, Latina, Latin, Hispanic, Latin American. Ooh, I didn't get Chicano, Chicana. Oh, so there's so many. So in the next iterations, I'll do Chicano or Chicana or Latin or Latino or Hispanic. This is a gross overgeneralization because for somebody who identifies as any one of these might not identify as all of them. So take care when you do this, because there's many ways of stumbling over identity research, because again, it's not you framing it. And then for our next one, let's do, because we want to find out if somebody identifies as one of these, what are their values? So if they really value family, then your message should talk about the preservation of family. You see politicians do this. If they value their house, then your message might be, hey, you might lose your house if you go to drug court or something like that. So we're finding what we can hitch our wagon of rhetoric onto, identity or community. Community is people that share the same identity. That's a lot of stuff. And we're not looking at courts. We're not looking at any of the issues that we were looking at before. We're considering the people that we want to reach out to. Ooh, embracing diversity. Ooh, there's different languages. Black race matters in the Latino population. Chicanismo. Oh, rap music. So there's one right there we could hitch our wagon to without even reading the article. We could find out like what message do we want. This sounds like an awful social media campaign. But we could have somebody rapping in Spanish about the dangers of this, that, or the other thing. You see this in advertising. You see this in billboards. You see it in social media campaigns all the time. This is how they do it. They do studies of identity. So let's go back, since we had 60,000 results. And let's do that title search again. Document title. And let's do peer reviewed. And let's do the last, because we want this to be recent, so the last 3 years. So since COVID, if I want to reach out, ooh, neighborhood characteristics, ooh, parenting practices. What? I'm not Latino enough? Oh, underrepresentation in a 4-year degree. So if people feel like something, and it shows a statistical significance where they were doing enough data gathering, this is something that you could use. Oh, whoa. So this, problematic or not, is something to be aware of. So multiracial Latinx students, it was a place where ethnic identities were questioned if they failed to fit the canon or essentialist notions of Latinx identity. Isn't that fascinating? I was about to say good or bad. I was about to add my value judgment, but it's just fascinating that that exists in 2023. You can use that and you can cite it in how you are targeting a specific audience in higher education. Again, this has been Dale.